You are tuned into the Literacy Hour with Test Taking Solution and your host, Dr. Kentrell Liddell, MD, MBA. The purpose of this show is to help mitigate health disparities, improving literacy related to health, economics, and education. For all your professional development, professional management, and educational support services needs, contact Test Taking Solution, where we're igniting success. Located at 2104 Thousand Oaks Drive in Jackson, Mississippi. Literacy is knowledge and knowledge is power. Thank you for joining the Literacy Hour. Good morning, everyone. I hope that you're able to hear me well. It's kind of cloudy out this morning here in Jackson, so be careful on your drive. They say that we'll have scattered showers here and there throughout the day. A change is going to come if we don't give up and just keep going. Again, good morning. It's Mental Health and Wellness Tuesday here on the Literacy Hour, sponsored by Test Taking Solution and its foundation, where we focus on enhancing literacy and mitigating health disparities. I'm your host, Dr. Liddell, the founder and CEO of Test Taking Solution. I want to start this morning with an update that we had hoped to give last Tuesday, but we didn't have sufficient time to do so. I'm glad you all tuned in last Tuesday. I'm glad you're with me this morning. But the update I want to give is about the Discrimination Financial Assistance Program, DFAP. You know, last Tuesday was financial literacy, and we talk about wealth building, and we review financial literacy concepts, budgeting, different forms of taxes, etc. But the DFAP is something that we wanted to get to, but just didn't have time. And there's been some developments, and the USDA has posted some frequently asked questions. We call those FAQs. Yeah, welcome to the Literacy Hour. We hope that you leave this hour having learned something new or having reviewed something you already knew. So frequently asked questions, also known as FAQs. I want to share the specifics of FAQ number 5 and number 5A with you this morning. And everything I share now, I can back it up, and I can give you the resource so you can go and read it yourself as well. And the resource to learn all you want to know about DFAP is www.22007. So that's 22007. Apply, apply.gov. That's where you go to learn all you want to know about the DFAP. They do a pretty good job of keeping that site updated. And I want you to understand that updates is what you need. We don't need hearsay. We want to know what is the latest and stay updated. So, some FAQs. FAQ number 5 explains that the program does not cover representatives of the estate of a now deceased borrower who experienced discrimination. And it goes on to say on this site that USDA is not changing this program rule. So that tells me that they've been challenged about this particular rule. This rule that if someone has died and you are completing an application on behalf of that now deceased borrower who experienced discrimination, it said they're not covering representatives of the estate of that person. And USDA, quote, is not changing this rule. They did have a webinar on June 24th. I attended it and I shared it with you all, and encourage you to attend as well, especially if you submitted an application. And during that webinar, they spoke about how taxes will be affected should you receive a DFAP award. So very important information on how the DFAP award could affect your taxes and your benefits. You want to know all about that. So please carve out some time. They have uploaded that webinar so you can hear it for yourself. Um, I believe that they captured maybe the most important aspects of that webinar. Maybe they didn't upload the entire thing, but because I see where they have that the information is now available. But you go out there, 22007 apply.gov, and find out what you need to know when it comes to the DFAP. They're determining eligibility right now. They're scoring the applications using USDA approved guidance. The program administrators are going to refer all their decisions on the applications to the USDA for endorsement. And upon approval, the program administrators will distribute your fund check. Your fund check. You're going to get a check through the U.S. mail. They say the next time you'll hear from DFAP is when the final award decisions have been made. And they continue to say that that's targeted for summer 2024. So sometime soon, because it's summer right about now. So I want you to be aware of those FAQs. And again, I highlighted FAQ number 5 today, because there are several FAQs. As a matter of fact, they have listed 28 FAQs, 28 frequently asked questions. And I want you to pay close attention to question number 5, 5A, 5B. 5 says, am I eligible to participate in this program if I inherited debt from a family member who experienced discrimination in a USDA farm loan program? Or if I'm a representative of the estate of that now deceased borrower? And I want to be crystally clear of what the USDA said, and they have it there on their website in writing. You can participate only if you experience covered discrimination, or if you are currently a debtor with assigned or assumed USDA farm loan debt incurred by a person who was the subject of USDA discrimination. You cannot participate as the representative of the estate of a now deceased borrower. I want to know what you all think about that. You know, that there is some family member who experienced USDA discrimination, and that person has gone on to glory, and you are trying to reap justice on their behalf. The USDA is saying they're not going for it. They're saying, no, you cannot do that. You must have been the person who assumed that USDA farm loan and experienced the covered discrimination that they're talking about. Question 5A says, is an application considered ineligible if the applicant died after submitting the application? They said no. The applicant must have been alive when the application was submitted. If an applicant has since died, since the application was submitted, their family or the estate should contact the DFAP call center. So get something to write with. I want to give you this call center telephone number. So you got the website, 22007 apply.gov. And now here's the phone number. If you have any other questions about the status of your application, or just any other questions that they may not have already answered, because don't forget now, they have put 28 frequently asked questions out here where you can see their answer to the question. The call center number is 1-800-721-0970. 0970. All right, that number again, 1-800-721-0970. Call the DFAP call center if you have any questions. 5B asks, is an application considered ineligible if the applicant becomes incapacitated after submitting the application. Incapacitated. Now, for some of you, that might be a new word, and that's all right. It's okay not to know, but it's not okay not to find out. So, welcome to the Literacy Hour. We're certainly going to tell you what incapacitated means in case you don't know. Incapacitated, you don't have the strength that you once had. You're not able to accomplish or to do something that you were once able to accomplish. It's an adjective. It describes someone who's unable to accomplish something due to a lack of capacity or a lack of ability. So incapacitated. Incapacitated. What does it mean if someone is incapacitated? They're incapable. That's where you see how part of that word incapacitated, incapable, they have similar roots there. So incapacitated, you're incapable of your normal functioning. So the question asked, is an application considered ineligible? Okay, I don't qualify if the applicant becomes incapacitated. If I applied and then something happened to me where now I'm not able to function as I once did, what happens to my application? Is it considered ineligible at that point? The USDA says no. Applicants deemed eligible for an award will still receive it, even if you become incapacitated after submitting your application. Now, if family members or any other caregivers need to act on your behalf, for example, you have a change of address or they have to sign on your behalf because your incapacitation includes you not being able to write, then they should use a power of attorney as appropriate for authorization. Again, at the end of the day, if you have a question and you don't feel that these FAQs, frequently asked questions that the USDA posted, answers your question, call them up. Call the DFAP call center, 1-800-721-0970. So I did what I told you I was going to do. I told you last week that if you tuned back in this week, I would finish up with the DFAP update. And that is indeed the update. They are preparing to put the checks in the mail. And they have listed some FAQs. Again, I bring your attention to FAQ number 5, because I do know that there are some people who applied on behalf of their deceased family member. And what the USDA is saying is that's a no-go. You cannot participate as a representative of the estate of a now deceased borrower. I really want to know what you think about that. The number to call is 601-714-8378. I want to hear what you think. 601-714-8378. Call me up. Let's talk about it. Until I hear from you, I'm going to keep going, and I want you to not miss a beat of the Literacy Hour. So subscribe to our YouTube channel, and that's Test Taking Solution Foundation, and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Our summer program is in full swing, and we want to recognize our gold and in-kind sponsors again for their generosity. Today is Field Trip Tuesday. We're heading over to Tougaloo College, the Eagle Queen. Can't wait to get there. Such a beautiful campus. Dr. Donzel Lee, the president, and his administrative leadership, they keep the campus looking so very beautiful, and I just can't wait to get over there. Also, the Jackson Film Festival is going on over there as well. My Tougaloo College classmate, Mr. Maximus Wright, and his team are putting on some kind of festival. Man, you should have been there last night for the table reads. The youth screenwriters had their scripts read aloud, and it was just a sight to behold. Get over there, get in, join in some of the festivities, and certainly you should attend the gala that's going to be on Friday evening. So our summer program, full swing. Some of our gold and in-kind sponsors who have helped to make the summer academic enrichment program possible include Walmart right off of Highway 18 on Greenway Drive. And I'm going to continue to appreciate them because they didn't have to, but they did. So if you don't shop already at Walmart off Highway 18 on Greenway Drive, please make a point to do so because their establishment supports our community. Please visit www.henderson the number 4 that is, Jackson, JXN, Mayor 2025.com. That's Henderson for Jackson Mayor 2025.com to learn more about Elder First Lieutenant Colonel Mr. Timothy Henderson's platform as he vies to be our next mayor. Also, again, in recognition of our gold and in-kind sponsor, I want you to visit another website, Rehoboth Psych, REHOBOTH, Psych, PSYCH.com. And that's if you desire to learn more about psychiatric services provided by Dr. Celeste and Clyde Glenn. Listen, it's Mental Health and Wellness Tuesday. And one thing I really want to say this morning is we have to get rid of the stigma that's associated with mental health. We got to get rid of it. You know, our families go through things, and sometimes the things we go through involve mental health, mental illness as well. Is when you're not mentally healthy, you're mentally ill. It's the opposite of being mentally healthy. Mentally ill, mental illness, and mental and emotional well-being differs for each person. But most people do agree that when you are mentally well, you tend to have positive emotions and moods such as contentment, happiness, satisfaction with life, at least some of the time. But stuff happens. Stuff happens in our families. Stuff happens with our friends. And it can have a toll on you psychologically. So I do want you to get to know Dr. Celeste and Clyde Glenn, Rehoboth Psych. They're located at 357 Town Center Place, Suite 400 in Ridgeland, Mississippi. And not only that, they care about our youth. They help to sponsor the summer program. Call them up, 888-561-3380. That's 888-561-3380. You're going to be happy that you made that call. Mental and emotional well-being. So very important, just as important as our physical health. Most people will agree now that you're mentally and emotionally well when you're not angry. There's an absence of anger, sadness, fear, a numbness that interferes with your day-to-day functioning. Now, it's normal to get down and out about some things. I mean, there's a reason to be down, then yes, that's normal. Someone you love just passed away. That is normal to be down, to be grieving. You just failed a big test that you really wanted to pass. It's normal to be down. But now when that downness, that depression, that sadness, the fear, the anger, the numbness interferes with your day-to-day functioning, it's time to speak to a professional. It's time to get some help. It's time to get some help. We want you to feel fulfilled. We want you to be able to function in a positive way. Bottom line is, regardless of what's happening in your life and what challenges you face, well-being is rooted in your perception that your life is fulfilling and manageable. We call that resilience. That even though bad things happen, you have the ability to bounce back. Your mental and your physical health are equally important for your overall health and well-being. Mental illness and chronic stress can affect any part of your body. If you don't believe me, just think back on it. I remember very vividly when President Barack Obama became president. Just think about it. His hair was black. And within 4 years' time, listen, stress can do some things to your body that you wouldn't believe. And you don't feel it happening until it has progressed to a point where now it's affecting your immune system, your digestive system, your cardiovascular. That's your heart, your blood vessels. It affects your sleep. It can even affect your reproductive system, mental health. It's that powerful. And any aspect of your being that is that important and that powerful deserves attention. It deserves to be nurtured, cared for, maintained. Just like our physical health, our mental health deserves that. You know, I give my staff mental health breaks. Yeah, call them up and ask them if you don't believe me. There are days when I will just send a note to my staff and say, hey, take a mental health day. Not because they did anything, not because anything's going on. I just let them select a day that they just want to take a mental health day. And the response that I've gotten back from them as I've done that over the years is just overwhelmingly positive. They say, thank you, Dr. Liddell. Now, let me tell you, I don't get that. I've never had a boss that said to me, take a mental health break. Don't come in tomorrow if you don't want to. You can if you want to. If you don't, then don't. Go take care of your business. Do what you do. Go to the lake. Take a mental health break for yourself. I've never had that. And so I made it a point that when I became an employer, that I would give my staff an opportunity to not only take care of their physical health, but their mental health as well. It's so important. Chronic illnesses can occur when you're not mentally well. Short-term symptoms interfere with your daily life. They can include digestive problems, headaches, body aches, sleeplessness, difficulty concentrating. No matter how hard you try, you just can't concentrate on that task. There's something going on. Over time, continued strain on the body from stress or mental illness may contribute to serious health problems such as heart disease. You can wear your heart out worrying about stuff. High blood pressure, diabetes, stroke, rheumatoid arthritis. It's been proven. The evidence is in. So when we learn better, we do better. Now that we know that stress can lead to these illnesses, that elevated stress hormones like cortisol are linked to inflammation in the body. We do what's necessary to relieve such stress. And again, for me at Test Taking Solution, I provide my staff with a mental health day. I wish I could do far more because it takes more. You have vacation, take the vacation time. Every now and then you have to take sick leave to just get away, to unplug. Lifestyle choices. Mental health affects your lifestyle choices, including the likelihood that you will overeat or eat unhealthy comfort food. You know what I'm talking about. You become dependent on alcohol. You abuse drugs. You smoke because it helps you to cope with something. Those are lifestyle choices. Among smokers, as a matter of fact, people with mental health conditions are more likely to smoke a greater number of cigarettes. That's what the studies have found. Sleep problems. You see, I'm telling you how mental health affects your physical health, causes chronic illness, leads to bad lifestyle choices that then lead to chronic illnesses, can cause sleep problems, which we have determined can also lead to heart problems and other chronic illnesses. Up to 80% of people with mental health conditions also have sleeping problems, like insomnia. That's a sleeping problem. Not able to go to sleep. Sleep apnea. That's a problem. You have trouble with breathing when you're sleeping. There are some spells or moments when you actually are apneic. You're not breathing. Only 10% to 18% of the general population experience trouble sleeping, but people with mental health issues, 80% of them experience sleeping problems. So you see how the two are linked? When you don't feel well mentally, it tends to mess with other aspects of your health. Now, while conditions like depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder may lead to sleep problems can also make your existing mental health conditions even worse. Welcome to the Literacy Hour. It is our Mental Health and Wellness Tuesday. I just finished sharing with you how mental health can affect our physical health. I also invited you to visit Dr. Celeste and Clyde Glenn, located at 357 Town Center Place in Ridgeland. You can call them up, 888-561-3380. And if you stay tuned, I'm going to share some additional mental health and behavioral health resources with you because we need them. We need to know where we can get some help when all hell is breaking loose, when things are not going the way we had planned and we are on the verge of breaking down. It happens. If you have not had a situation in your life where you have just had to lay out on the floor, prostrate, on the floor, face down, then just keep living. Life happens to us all. Our families go through things. We raise children to the best of our abilities, and then they still make decisions that we don't agree with. They're human. We're human. And thank God he knew all about us when he made us, even before he made us. He knew that we would need a savior. I'm just so grateful. I'm so grateful. Yes, I'm a Christian, and I'm grateful that he sent his son, Jesus. I know all of you may not be Christian, and I'm certainly not knocking your religion, and I'm certainly not trying to be offensive. I'm telling you what I know and what I believe. And I just believe that God took care of a lot of things by sending us his son, Jesus. We're very thankful for Kroger in Clinton, Mississippi. Kroger stepped out on faith, and they helped to sponsor our summer academic enrichment program. They make sure that we're well hydrated during our field trips. They provide water. So they are an in-kind sponsor. Gym Publications in Florida, Mississippi. We wouldn't have our signage outside of our center without Gym Publications. Boy, you talk about a great job. I mean, if you don't, just go try them for yourself. You will be more than happy with their work. I will be remiss if I don't mention that syphilis is still on the rise here in Mississippi. Hinds County being one of the 9 counties identified as a hot spot by the Mississippi State Department of Health. Request a free HIV or syphilis test by calling 800-456-2323 and pressing 1. It'll be between you and your healthcare provider. You know, they get in trouble if they share your information. Nobody's going to share your results. Go get tested and take care of yourself. Get tested. Take care of yourself. You want to learn more about syphilis, and I hope you do. msdh.ms.gov. That's the website. You can also check out the CDC, but I like to keep it at home. Mississippi State Department of Health does a marvelous job of keeping us updated on all things health related here in our state. Syphilis. They have a website dedicated or web page of their site dedicated just to syphilis, but not only syphilis, all STDs, HIV. You can learn about PrEP. Yeah, that's that pre-exposure prophylaxis, HIV prevention. Go over there, spend some time. You got cell phones. I know all about it now. These phones are connected to the internet. You can go online right there on your cell phone or at your desktop, your laptop. Be informed. msdh.ms.gov. You'll be so happy that you went over there to find out more about this disease, syphilis. I want you to know your risk. I want you to know how to stay safe because let me tell you now, you get an infectious disease like syphilis, you talk about your mental health being affected. It will be. It will be. Mississippi is seeing increasing rates of syphilis. Syphilis is a sexually transmitted disease and it's dangerous. It's dangerous to your health. And if you're pregnant, it's dangerous to the health of your unborn child. The right steps can prevent syphilis or treat it before it causes severe health problems. Who's at risk? Anyone can get syphilis if you're sexually active. Okay, the only way not to get it, don't be sexually active with someone who is infected. And how do you know the person is infected or not? How do you know? Protect yourself. Protect yourself. Get tested. Make sure that you are free of this infection. The symptoms can be hard to spot. They're so non-specific. In other words, they show up as some symptoms, just like we have with other conditions. But there are some distinct things like the sores we've talked about here on the Literacy Hour. Yeah, the painless, they don't hurt, they're just there. And then they heal up. You want to get that checked out. Syphilis can be transmitted through oral, anal, or vaginal sex. It can also spread from direct contact with those syphilis sores. Pregnant women have special risk. If you are infected during pregnancy, your baby can die. If you are pregnant and you believe that you have syphilis, I am begging you to go get tested. Cases of syphilis have increased by 80%, something we thought we had beaten. We thought we had gotten rid of this bug, but it has come back and come back with a vengeance. Early detection makes all the difference, just like we talk about with breast cancer screening, prostate cancer screening, colorectal cancer screening, cervical cancer screening. Early detection saves lives, and it can save the life of your unborn child. You see, when it's detected early, syphilis is easy to treat. It's easy to cure. Cure. There are not a lot of things we can cure and get completely rid of. Syphilis is one of them. We can cure it. Untreated syphilis, however, if you just go on and you know something ain't quite right and you may have syphilis, you can invade your other organs. Yeah, that treponema pallidum, that bug will invade major organs of your body and cause conditions like blindness, paralysis, heart disease, and even death. Testing is essential. Want to detect syphilis infection? Get quick, proper care before your health is permanently damaged. Again, the call-in number is 601-714-8378. Someone told me the other day, Dr. Liddell, we don't call because we don't want to interrupt you. You are giving us information and we got to get all we can get in that little hour that you have. I understand that. But I also want to hear your viewpoint. So give me a call, 601-714-8378. Don't let me do all the talking. Yes, we're talking right now about syphilis. And on behalf and compliments of the Mississippi State Department of Health, they're providing free syphilis tests. Free. You don't have to pay a dime. You walk into the health department, any of the health departments throughout our state, tell them you want to get tested for syphilis. You can whisper it. And if they say it out loud, you report them. If somebody breaches your patient confidentiality, you report them. There are ways that you can report them. If you don't know how to report them, or there's not a phone number up on the wall where you can report them, you call the State Department of Health and you tell them what happened. The telephone number to get a free syphilis or HIV test confidentially is 800-456-2323. And when you dial that number, you're going to press 1 and tell them you want a free syphilis or HIV test. And pressing 1 will request it for you anyway. And it's going to help you schedule a time and a location that's convenient for you. Don't wait for syphilis to find you. You can avoid getting syphilis or giving it to others by being safe. Be safe, you all. Talk with your partners about their sexual history and their health. If they love you, they won't get mad. They'll tell you. Okay? All right, now I'm going to keep talking about it throughout the month of July. You haven't heard the end of it. So if you tune in to the Literacy Hour here on YouTube, heard also on WMPR 90.1 FM, WFQY 99.1 FM, and WGDQ 93.1 FM, you're going to hear about syphilis. Some researchers have found that a daily dose of doxycycline, that's one of those old antibiotics, doxycycline, it prevents some infections with syphilis, gonorrhea, chlamydia. You know, part of my job here, well, I don't work, I don't get paid for doing what I do here, but I call it a job. It's also a passion of mine to share information, because I just know that when you don't know something, and then you're held accountable for not knowing, it's a bad feeling. And so I'm really on a mission to help enhance our literacy in lots of different ways. And so I'm telling you what researchers have found, because otherwise some of us wouldn't know. You wouldn't know that researchers have found after doing their research or by doing their research that a daily dose of doxycycline can prevent some infections with syphilis, gonorrhea, and chlamydia. That's a large use of that medication, taking a daily dose of it, but that's what they found. And they just released this information. The findings presented at the International AIDS Society Conference, that a daily dose of doxycycline, a widely used antibiotic, can prevent some infections with syphilis, gonorrhea, and chlamydia, potentially a new solution to the escalating crisis of STIs, sexually transmitted infections. Researchers looked at gay and bisexual men who were already taking a daily pill to treat HIV, and they added 100 milligrams of doxycycline each day for 48 weeks. That's how they did the study. Researchers found that daily doxycycline slashed the rate of syphilis infections by 79%. It slashed the rates of chlamydia by 92%. And slashed the rate of gonorrhea by 68%. Doxycycline. Talk to your healthcare provider. Call them up. Go make an appointment. See him or her. The phone line is open. I want to hear your thoughts. 601-714-8378. Today is 4th Tuesday, where we turn our attention to enhancing our mental health and wellness from an inspirational and educational perspective. We share real stories, true life stories that will encourage you to get the help that you need and to not give up. We also share news about progress that's being made in our state and across the country to improve all of our mental health and wellness. Now, during this hour, I usually accomplish 5 objectives. I continue our review of the all-in federal strategic plan to prevent and end homelessness. I continue our review of the Surgeon General's Social Connection Advisory. I review the latest in mental health research by discussing recently published articles by either the New England Journal of Medicine, one of my very favorite medical journals, the American Academy of Family Physicians Journal, or the Psychiatric Times. I really enjoy all of those journals. You come to my office, you'll probably see them spread around my desk, but I really find that they do a great job of providing the research and giving nice summary statements, commentation. I love it. And so I want to bring that to you here on the Literacy Hour. We review what's going on in the news relevant to mental health and wellness. And then I usually finish up by sharing some potentially beneficial community resources and upcoming events. And this morning, I'll be talking about just that. So stay tuned. Don't touch that dial. You're in the right place. Census Bureau. The Census Bureau has been publishing lots of data that they have curated based on the latest census. You know, when we got counted back here. Housing report was published recently, and they found that half of all renters in the United States spend more than 30% of their income on rent and utilities, and that this is causing a lot of mental anguish with people. Inflation. But spending more than 30% of your income on just rent and utilities. Now, we're not talking about insurances. We're not talking about the car note. We're not talking about just your groceries and living. And if you have a business, we're not talking about you supporting your business financially. None of that. 30% of your income just being spent on your house, on your utility. That's a historic high, according to the Census Bureau findings. Thousands of homeowners will face higher mortgage payments in the next year. Tens of thousands of homeowners are about to get slammed with higher monthly payments. Intercontinental Exchange said about 102,000 homeowners who bought 5-year adjustable rates will face a reset in the next 12 months. More than 329,000 mortgage holders have already had their rates adjusted this year. This comes as potential home buyers face one of the most unaffordable housing markets in decades. So while the rate jumps can sometimes catch people off guard, and especially mentally, most adjustable rate mortgage loans come with an interest rate cap. Thank God. They can't go over a certain amount, and that's to prevent costs from spiraling out of control. Now, while prices are going up on rent and all these other associated costs, other costs are also increasing, such as subscription costs. I could have sworn that my post office box had an increase just a few months ago. Well, they announced they're having another one. I know that you're like me, and from time to time you receive notices that QuickBooks, Netflix, and other streaming services are increasing their prices. Well, heck, my storage unit. I have some items in storage. Our foundation has some items in storage. And we have been notified of price increases. And again, the price recently increased just a few months ago. It's increasing again. My internet service has increased its price recently. And I received an email notice yesterday that my monthly legacy, quote unquote, that's what they called it, your legacy AT&T bill is about to go up. And I'm thinking, wait a minute. You all just had a major breach of your company records, including your customers' phone and text records. And you want me to pay more? Am I paying for the investigation, the security, additional features that you're going to employ because of this breach? Wow. All of these price increases, and some jobs provide no increase in employees' salaries. In the words of the famous Taraji P. Henson, the math ain't mathing. And that's why millennials say they need $525,000 a year to be happy. Yeah. There was an article, a Nobel Prize winner's research shows that they're not wrong. And to find that same article, I just want you to go to msn.com and type in millennials and $525,000. You know how to query the system. You all have gotten really computer savvy. And for those of you who are not, visit Test Taking Solution. We will help you get up and running with how to turn on the computer, run the computer. We're helping folks through community engagement like that every day, and we don't mind doing it. But recent data from the Federal Reserve indicates that the median net worth of Americans ages 35 to 44 was $135,000 in 2022. And on average, they did this survey, asking millennials, what would make you happy? Millennials said, I need $525,000 a year to be happy. And this Nobel Prize winner's research was about money and happiness. On average, respondents to a new survey said they needed $1.2 million in the bank to be happy. Millennials again said their happiness would come if you gave them a $525,000 annual salary. And the Nobel Prize winner's research suggests that there is a link between money and happiness. Now, if money can buy happiness, a new survey suggests each generation may have a different idea of what that price tag should be. They released the results of the survey and was conducted by the Harris Poll just recently, now August 2023, and it asked over 2,000 Americans ages 18 and over, what is the key to happiness? And I just want you to be informed that people are hurting out here, but I don't have to tell you, you're in that number, some of you. You're hurting because things are costing more than what you're making. And that is why it is so important that we vote. We have to vote for folks who are going to make a difference in our pocketbooks, in our lives. We got to listen to the issues. For those of you who tune into the show regularly, you know that I depend on the facts. And I love to review the evidence. Most doctors do. I enjoy reviewing data shared by the United States Census Bureau because it really does give us a good look at our nation as a whole from various perspectives. Take how we spend money on groceries, for example. The Census Bureau even looked at that. According to a recent Census Bureau survey, the average American family spends about $270 on groceries per week. Now, that's not everybody. It just said average now. So it can be more for some folks, less for others. But it climbs to $331 for families with children. But you know what helps me to keep all of these high prices in perspective? First, I think about how nothing escapes God's awareness. He sees all. He knows all. And then I think about how there are some people in other countries who are struggling right now to find something to eat. Yes, it's a sobering reminder of how lucky we Americans really are. So if you ever feel like complaining about your financial situation, if you have a roof over your head, please think about people who are homeless. And that's why I like reviewing that all-in strategic plan to end homelessness. The United States Interagency Council on Homelessness, convened by the Biden-Harris administration, is made up of 19 federal agencies, and they work together on this report. Homelessness is deadly, is what they found. People who experience homelessness die nearly 30 years earlier than the average American, and at the average age that folks died back in 1900. All in, the Federal Strategic Plan to Prevent and End Homelessness was published in December 2022, is a 104-page report, and we're on the Housing is Healthcare section. Let me say that again. They got a whole section in this report called Housing is Healthcare. I love it because housing is a social determinant of health. Meaning that, how can somebody expect you to be healthy if you don't have adequate housing? If you're bouncing from house to house to house, if you don't have stable housing, how can we expect you to be healthy? How can we expect you to access what you really need? You got to know the resources that are available. Thank you for tuning into the Literacy Hour. I plan to keep reading this report until we're done, or someone scraps the plan, or until homelessness in our country has ended, whichever comes first, because you're not going to tell me that they're going to put 19 federal agencies at the table and not be able to solve this issue. We got to solve it. We've prayed about it. We have the experts at the table. And my understanding now is that the federal government has put the funding, the money behind this situation. And so we want to end homelessness. Healthcare, homelessness, housing is healthcare. I love it. Housing is healthcare. Certain health conditions are more common among people experiencing homelessness. That's what they mean when they say housing is healthcare. There are certain health conditions that if you're homeless, you're up to 7 times more likely to have some of these conditions. For example, you're more than 7 times more likely to lack health insurance if you're homeless. Now, how do we expect you to go and get some help healthcare wise if you don't have insurance? Yes, there's a free clinic, thank God, downtown Jackson. Yes, we have UMMC, University Medical Center. This is a teaching institution. Yes, we have some places who can put you on a sliding scale. Thank God for community health centers like Jackson Hines Comprehensive Health Center, Central Mississippi Health Services. Thank God for these community health centers. If you're homeless, find your way to one of these centers. You're 5.7% more likely to experience dementia if you are homeless. You're 3.2% more likely to be diagnosed with TB, tuberculosis. You're 22.4% more likely to be diagnosed with asthma. 29.2% more likely to be diagnosed with viral, chronic, acute hepatitis. You're more likely to be diagnosed with a cerebral vascular accident. We call it here in the lay world stroke. You're more likely to have epilepsy. You're more likely to acquire HIV, cirrhosis of the liver, chronic obstructive lung disease. Listen, the research has been done. Certain health conditions are more common among people experiencing homelessness. And we as a country have to do something about it. Lack of housing supply is one of the reasons why people are homeless. We don't have enough accessible, affordable housing. Now, I said 2 A's right there. I said accessible and I said affordable. We got to have the housing available. And we are around here closing schools. Someone suggested to me the other day, Dr. Liddell, I wonder why they won't turn these schools that they're closing into a housing facility to get some of our homeless people in Jackson off the street. They got the classrooms right there. They got, the restrooms. They got the stalls. They got a cafeteria. Why don't they just turn it into a place for the homeless people? Well, you'll have to call the school district to find out about that. It's a good idea, good thinking. So we're going to keep talking about all in the federal strategic plan to prevent and end homelessness. And today you heard me share with you that housing is healthcare. Mental health and wellness are important topics, and we at the Test Taking Solution Foundation are going to keep providing public service announcements and raising awareness about both. We will keep raising awareness about homelessness too. And in the meantime, if you're in the market for a new home, and if you have a steady source of income, you might qualify for a USDA single-family housing direct home loan at 100% financing. Test Taking Solution wants to help you get your loan application together. We can't guarantee that you'll qualify, but we can certainly help you conduct a self-assessment and package your loan if you do. Call our office, 601-714-8378 for an appointment. It's the same call-in number that I've asked you to call if you want to provide comments about today's show, 601-714-8378. Now let's continue our review of the Surgeon General's Social Connection Advisory. We've been sounding the alarm that we have an epidemic of loneliness to contend with. Loneliness is a profound public health threat. And the title of our Surgeon General's report is Our Epidemic of Loneliness. Our Epidemic of Loneliness. Call back in if you are trying to get me. Call in 601-714-8378. I heard a caller and then the call dropped. I want to hear from you, so call on back in. We will get you on the air. The U.S. Surgeon General's 2023 advisory on the healing effects of social connection and community. Dr. Vivek Murthy, MD, MBA. He's our 19th and he's our 21st Surgeon General of these United States. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. What's your question or comment?
Good morning. And I'm listening to your segment, and you're doing a fantastic job.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for this content. This is long overdue.
Long overdue.
Yes, ma'am. Sometimes I even wonder if it's too late, but we got to still try. Those of us who have the resources to help others, we can do what we can do. I wanted to inquire with you about is anyone having discussions about mental illness in reference to our demographic as Black people? And what I mean by that, I'm talking about as a collective. I don't see that there are very many of us who are not affected. I would venture to say, anytime you're in a traumatic stress situation like we've been, since we've been over here, I don't see how we don't understand ourselves. That some of the things we do that we don't like is a direct result of the trauma that we've experienced.
Wow.
And it's just gone from bad to worse. There is no order, no codes of ethics that's really, permeating anymore in our demographic.
And you're saying that may have something to do with us with us coming over here as slaves. Is that what you're referencing?
All the way from that point, and we were traumatized in that manner, yes, ma'am. But I'm knowing it still has an impact because the same people who had us in servitude and oppressed at that point, they're the ones that's still running, everything in the world right now. And things have been done systematically by the dominant society that impacts us. And a lot of times we don't know it until it's infused.
Wow.
And rooted.
I love the way you said that. You're right. You're right on target. And yes, there is conversation going on about it. I mentioned during this hour, 2 psychiatrists, board certified. They actually went to the same medical school that I attended, University of Iowa College of Medicine. Dr. Celeste and Clyde Glenn, located in Ridgeland, Mississippi. Also, there is, and I want you to take note of this now, there is something called the Glenn Family Foundation. They're having conversations. Yes, ma'am. The Glenn Family Foundation. Literally, you can type in Glenn Family Foundation, MS. Having conversations. They have a conference, an annual conference that really looks to inspire, educate, and empower families centered around these same topics that you mentioned this morning. But not only that, they look at these adverse, traumatic experiences that come to be. There's a lot going on, ma'am. You are right. They are having the conversation. They're providing mental health services for children, adolescents, young adults who are at risk for serious emotional disturbances. Mr. Ray McCants, while I'm talking about them, let me give you the telephone number, not just you, but our entire listening audience. 769.
Hold on just 1 second.
Yes.
Hold on just 1 second. I'm going to have my son write it down.
Thank you. Thank you. Infusion Metro, an affiliate of Hines Behavioral Health.
Metro.
Mr. Ray McCants. The number is 769-233-2666. 233-7429. 29. Yes, ma'am. And then there's Restoration House Ministries. That's a 12-month faith-based residential facility for men 18 and over to help them overcome any kind of life-controlling issues such as addictions, alcoholism, depression, anger, suicide. Yes, there's a conversation being had. The Restoration House Ministries. For the listening audience, the number to call is 865-352-1274. You tell them you heard about it on the Literacy Hour. If you want to help finding ways to get socially connected, if you need help finding a job, call our office, 601-714-8378. 714-8378. And then finally, there's the 988 Mental Health Crisis Line. I want everybody to know about the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. That number is still available. You can call the number. You can text the number. It is 988. And just, ma'am, listen, I just thank God that you took time out of your busy day to pick that phone up and call us and share your perspective. You are right on target. You're engaged. And I also heard you tell your son to take the number down. So, ma'am, let me congratulate you this morning on being a good mom.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
I appreciate that. And may I insert one more thing? I heard you make mention of the Jackson Hines health facility.
Yes, ma'am. You hold that thought for just one moment. We're going to have to do a station check. Sure. A station check. Again, thank you all so much. You are tuned in to the Literacy Hour on YouTube. You're tuned in to WMPR 90.1 FM, WFQY 99.1 FM, and WGDQ 93.1 FM. We'll be back on the other side. All right, and we are back, and we are here with a lovely, lovely lady who has called in this morning and who has just asked the question, is there a conversation being had about mental health, about the trauma that we've been going through actually since landing here? And you know what she's talking about. And so we're listening to her. She's extremely intellectual, very well spoken, and I'm enjoying this. Ma'am, I turn it back over to you.
I appreciate those beautiful compliments. Really, what I wanted to express is you made mention of the Jackson Hines Comprehensive Health Center in Jackson, and it is a fantastic resource and has been for many, many decades in our community for those in particular who are economically challenged. And we do need to remember that we have that access to that resource. It's been a beautiful thing. I've actually used it in years past. But I heard you say how much of a blessing it was that we have access to that, and you're 100% right. But I think a great majority of our voting population does not realize that facilities like that only exist because you pay taxes.
Yes.
Because you go and spend your money at stores, because you go and get up at 5 and 4 o'clock in the morning, 6 and 7 and 8 o'clock in the morning, or go to work in the middle of the night on your job, and they take your taxes out of your paycheck before you ever see it.
My Lord, that's right.
And those facilities could not exist if it wasn't for the working man and woman. And yet and still, in this day and time, the great majority of us do not take responsibility to set agendas for our politicians. We ask the politician to tell us what it is they gonna do for us. Why don't we switch that around
and tell them,
begin to get together to have conversations with one another about what it is that's missing, what it is that we desperately need as a demographic. Because until we change that, we're going to keep getting what we've always gotten, which is very little to nothing with our votes.
Wow.
So I just wanted to say that. I always talk about that. We have to, first of all, know that we are the power. They are here to serve us as politicians.
Yes.
They are not here to dictate to us our needs. We need to be prepared to ask them, are you willing to represent us by getting our roads repaired, fixing our water, having updates on the Jackson Hines Community Health Complex? That's what we as responsible citizens are supposed to do. And all of this is related to what you're talking about.
Yes, it
is. You mentioned leads back to money.
Yes, it does. Though I say all the time,
Yes,
ma'am, and I thank you for calling. Listen, I want you to have a marvelous day. Keep listening in. I tell you
yes,
what,
yes,
you all, she did it. She just did it. And she didn't have to, but she called in and she laid it out that we need to set the agenda for our legislators. Listen, as I end the day, I want to review what's going on in the news relevant to mental health and wellness right here in our state, since she mentioned it. And you need to know that a state task force has been convened to tackle K through 12 college students' mental health. They met at the Capitol last week, you all, on July 17th to discuss mental health issues facing young Mississippians. The committee is chaired by Senator David Parker, Republican out of Olive Branch, and chair of Senate Accountability, Efficiency, Transparency, and House Education Chair, Representative Rob Robertson, a Republican out of Starkville, my home. It includes legislators, state officials, mental health and education professionals, and one student. Mississippi State Superintendent of Education, Mr. Lance Evans, said that the counselor to student ratio in Mississippi is 400 to 1. Now, I know he meant 1 to 400. The counselor to the student ratio. One counselor for every 400 students. Come on, y'all. You know that that's not good. Wendy Bailey, executive director of the Mississippi Department of Mental Health, said there are 519 school therapists employed in the state. There were 1,038 operating public elementary and secondary schools in Mississippi for the 2022 to 2023 school year, and that's according to the National Center for Education Statistics. Now, this task force is going to stay convened, and they're going to meet again August the 7th. And they're required to make recommendations to the legislature by October the 1st. So let your voices be heard. Talk to the folks on this state task force about tackling K through 12 college students' mental health. But as our wonderful impromptu young guest said earlier, she said that we need to have a broader conversation about what's going on with us, about how our mental health is faring in light of all the trauma that we've experienced and that we continue to experience. She didn't say this, but she's talked about in the form of systemic discrimination, systemic racism. It's alive and well. It's very prevalent. Now, my time is done. The literacy hour, that hour goes so fast. You all tell me that all the time. Thank you for tuning in today. I hope that you will tune in again on next week. We will look at, oh, wow, Tech Tuesday. We have a 5th Tuesday in July. So, yes, Tech Tuesday is going to be a wonderful, wonderful opportunity for us to talk about all things tech next week and what's going on in our community and how it is affecting all of us. I want you to stay tuned and listen. Until then, no matter what it feels like, no matter what it looks like, no matter what it tastes like, smells like, is like, I want you to keep going. Don't give up. Find somebody you can talk to. Dial that 988 number if you can't find anyone. And I want you to be well. Thank you. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
For the past 1 hour, you have been listening to the Literacy Hour with Test Taking Solution and your host, Dr. Kentrell Liddell, MD, MBA. We are located at 2104 Thousand Oaks Drive in Jackson, Mississippi. Visit us on the web at www.testtakingsolution.com. Join us each Tuesday from 7 to 8 a.m. for another life-changing conversation here on our podcast live stream at affiliate stations.